This morning, we'll have the privilege of listening once again to the Chief of Defense Staff, this time around in company of service chiefs and heads of other security organizations that are here present. If you recall, on Friday, the CDS addressed the media, but this time around, he is accompanied by the service chiefs, representative of the Inspector General of Police, and some.
You don't see him.
The IGP is here. The IGP is IGP Kayode Ebetokunja. Welcome, sir. At this point, may I inform you the order of this meeting? First, we'll be listening to the Chief of Defense Staff, and then we'll invite the service chief and the Inspector General of Police to also talk to the media. And thereafter, we'll invite the head of other security agencies that are here present if they wish to say anything. Then, after that, we will invite questions and answers before we close. At this point, it is my honor and privilege to invite the Chief of Defense Staff, Armed Forces of Nigeria, General Christopher Wadu Musa, officer of the Order of the Federal Republic, to please present his remarks. The CDS, sir.
Okay, thank you. Permit me to stand on the already established protocols. Members of the media especially, this is a great opportunity for us to discuss. Yesterday, you are all aware, we met with Mr. President on the security situation in the country. We had to give a brief after the meeting, and today we feel it's important again that we talk to Nigerians for them to understand that there is synergy between the security of the armed forces and members of the security forces. We know Nigeria is challenged, especially with the riots ongoing, but we're happy that people have seen reason that members of the armed forces and security agencies are working in synergy for the good of Nigeria. None of us is interested in anybody being killed, anybody being injured, anybody being prosecuted, except those that have crossed the line. And so this is an opportunity to show this, that we're working as a team in line with the mandate of Mr. President. So this morning we're here to give you some brief on the issues on the ground, what we're doing, and then to have interaction with members of the media to clarify certain issues. I'm going to start with, by my left, the Comptroller General of Immigration. Each will have some few minutes to say a few comments, and then before we round up. Thank you.
We're all aware that in the last 5-6 days, our country has been troubled with spate of violent protests in some states in the country. After the address of Mr. President on Sunday, tension doused. Peaceful protesters heeded the call of Mr. President to embrace dialogue. But we still have in few states, in Kano, Kaduna, Katsina, and Bauchi State, group of people who started subversive campaign, waving flags of other countries and openly calling for military takeover of government. This is not a protest, but an offense of treason. The Nigerian police has arrested a number of them, and they will be dealt with accordingly. They will be given appropriate charges. I want to use this opportunity to warn our youths to desist from accepting foreign flags from agents of destabilization. It is very, very implicating for them to be seen with flags of other countries while on protest. So far, the situation is under control, and we believe that after this press conference, those misguided elements and their sponsors will desist from these acts of treason. Thank you.
I must say that we are working very closely with all security agencies, especially the police. We are working very closely, and we have deployed sizable number of our staff, all over the Federation. We have also made some arrests of especially those who are trying to attack or who have attacked critical national assets of government and infrastructure. And we have seen that really there's no, if you trace the history of protests in the country, you will have seen that there's no protest that has been done successfully, without some form of violence or the other. And this one is really not a protest. From what we have seen, there are reports and there are agitations of a regime change, and that is treasonable in nature. And so let me say that we are going to work very closely together to sustain and even go on above the present situation of the form of operation that security agencies are doing. From the core, we are ready. We are championing the cause of peace, trying to educate Nigerians that there's no need for this protest, and that if you want to do protest, you do protest without violence. And so we are ready and we are poised to work with all agencies to make sure that this protest or this situation is nipped in the bud. With this, I want to thank the CDS for giving me the opportunity to really say something. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, CDS. I also want to appreciate this opportunity provided for us to have this briefing, a joint briefing. I'd like to also inform gentlemen of the press that this kind of joint action has been going on under the leadership of the Inspector General of Police even before the outbreak of the national protest. The ongoing protests have been premised on a number of themes, and one of them is end hunger. So part of the protest has addressed the issue of food inflation in our markets, food security in the long run. And I'd like to let Nigerians know that there has been a lot that is going on to address these issues that are related to ameliorate this situation through a mixture of fiscal policies of government and a number of strategic interventions from ministries, departments, and agencies of government. One of the things that I recall is the intervention through the distribution of strategic food items, which was released from the National Grain Reserves about a month ago. This was released to all states of the Federation. We also recall that a number of the food items that are consumed in Nigeria are imported. The better part of the components are imported, and importation are not done off the shelf. They take some time before they are done. So one of the things that the president has done is to reduce to cushion the effects of the cost inflation by suspending customs duties and taxes on imported food items for a period of time. We believe that when this is implemented, it will help to bring down the prices of food items in the market. Now, Nigeria Customs is committed to the implementation of this particular fiscal policy as enunciated by government. But I also like to remind Nigerians that we need to be very, very careful in the implementation of this, and this is why the guidelines for implementation is being meticulously worked out at the Ministry of Finance. What does this kind of intervention, what does it imply for the local markets? Because we're trying to address the interest of all the stakeholders. Most of these food items that is going to enjoy these duty waivers and concessions are also being cultivated by Nigerian farmers. And so there is the interest to strike, there is the issue of striking a balance between the interest, the long-term interest of Nigerian farmers, Nigerian stakeholders who are involved in the productions of these items, and the short-term interest of addressing food inflation. So the guidelines are being worked out at the Ministry of Finance, and I can assure you that within the next 1 week, these guidelines will be ready, and Nigeria Customs would begin implementation of these particular fiscal policies. So I therefore urge Nigerians to be a little bit patient, believing that some of these items that are already arrived at our shores would be cleared without imposition of customs duty and taxes. Once again, I want to express sincere gratitude for the opportunity to be part of this in the interest of national peace and security. Thank you.
Nigeria definitely is not in their strength. And even if it were, it is our collective responsibility to ensure that all hands are on deck and we move our nation forward. For the DSS, we have continued to gather appropriate intelligence and escalate them as appropriate, disseminate timely, actionable intelligence to action agencies and appropriate stakeholders on the basis of need to know and necessity for national security. On the 25th of July, particularly, the service issued a very clear, direct press statement saying that, yes, protest is a democratic right of citizens, but this particular one is one that is going to be mismanaged by the organizers, sponsors, and participants. And we said, we identified the funding lines, we identified the sponsors and critical role players in the protest. But were we going to start with arrest of persons and being combative? We said no. We applied moral suasion and multi-track diplomatic shuttle initiatives to appeal to the good conscience of such persons to say, down your tools, the government is already on top of the situation, doing so much, give the government an opportunity to also do what is needful. And 2 days ago, the president has come out to say, yes, I have heard your complaints. Come forward and dialogue as appropriate. We want to join goodwill Nigerians, persons of patriotic disposition, to say, you cannot destroy your nation and still want to have it. You cannot, by any stroke of any imagination, be in the forefront of destroying your nation. The places that we desire to go to live in, they are who they are because they obey laws, because they love their nations. People protest, but protest can also be of significant good if people adhere to the rules of engagement. In situations where protesters destroy public infrastructure, PIFA, loot, and undermine public peace, that definitely will not be tolerated. And there is no responsible government or security organization in any nation across the world that will fold their hands and allow the peace of their nation brought down by people who are either have decided to be subversive or illegitimately disposed to insecurity and disorder. We appeal to our youths, to our mothers, to our fathers, to the generality of Nigerians, to please give peace a chance and allow the government do what is needful. As committed as it has become, the federal government and all the subnationals will do what is very strategic for the nation. For us again, we have continued to map out strategies to ensure that whether at this level or at any other level, to ensure that any person who is involved in outright display of anarchy and chaos in the nation must be brought to book. In London or in the UK, the Prime Minister said before yesterday that those who are engaged in the violent protest in that part of the country would face consequences. And definitely people must face consequences. But that is not where we are now. Where we are is to appeal to people to be rational, to give peace a chance indeed. But for us, we will continue to do what is needful in line with our obligations. We will procure adequate intelligence, disseminate the same to appropriate authorities, and act as we should in line with international protocols and the constitution of the nation as may be relevant. Please, gentlemen of the press, we will also appeal to you to be careful, to be cautious about the narratives. Storytelling is what drives conflict of this nature. When we tell our stories and skew information to the detriment of public order, the end result is that people act on your stories. We want a situation where, when this has ended, you will be proud that you were not part of those who contributed to the inflammation of conflict or violence in the nation. Across the world, we have seen the tendencies or the contributions of media in violence. As men of pen, please apply good conscience and please tell stories that unite. Tell stories that raise hope and not stories that divide or create fear. Thank you very much.
The Chief of Defense Staff, sir, other service chiefs and heads of security agencies, members of the media, good morning, and thank you for this privilege, sir. Well, first, I want to assure all Nigerians that we are aware of some of the challenges and the hardships that the country is going through, and Nigerians, the ordinary Nigerians are going through right now. And we are also fully aware of every Nigerian's constitutional right to participate in peaceful protest. However, looking back at what has happened in the past few days, it is very clear to every peace-loving and patriotic Nigerian that these protests are no longer what they were purported to be. Instead, it's very clear to all that the protests have been hijacked by criminal elements and other groups that do not mean well for the country. I want to remind all Nigerians that while it is a constitutional right to participate in peaceful protest, it is also an offense and a crime to engage in disorder, violence, and chaos. And it is also the responsibility of the armed forces and other security agencies to ensure that violence, disorder, and chaos do not prevail, and will ensure that this does not happen. So I appeal to all well-meaning and peace-loving Nigerians to give peace a chance, to go back and give dialogue a chance, and let the problems be resolved peacefully. Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief has addressed the nation. He has assured all that all the grievances and challenges and the complaints are being addressed, and I can assure Nigerians that a lot is being done by the government to address these complaints and these grievances. So let us give peace a chance. Let us go back and allow dialogue to take place and let the problems be resolved gradually. We coming out, or Nigerians coming out to participate in violence, destruction, and looting cannot solve the problem. Will never solve the problem. It's going to only aggravate it and make it worse. So let us go back, desist from this protest, desist from perpetrating violence and disorder and chaos. Let us go back and give this a chance and allow the federal government to implement the policies that will eventually address all these grievances and complaints. The armed forces and other security agencies will not sit back and allow hoodlums and criminals to take the law into their hands and oppress other peace-loving and law-abiding Nigerians. Thank you.
The Chief of Defense Staff, Service Chiefs and Inspector General of Police, heads of other security agencies that are here, members of the media, distinguished senior officers, ladies and gentlemen, good morning or good afternoon. First, let me thank the CDS for providing this forum to enable us speak to Nigerians and also speak to our officers and the men regarding the prevailing issues of protests in Nigeria as it is today. I want to first of all start by recognizing the fact that Nigerians as citizens have a constitutional right to peaceful protest. And the President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, also equally recognizes this right and has given ample opportunity for people to air their grievances peacefully. This process, which started in that light, of course, we can all see today that it has taken another dimension. We share in the hopes and aspirations of Nigerians for better governance, which the President has also enunciated in the recent speech he made. The speech clearly brought out the intention of the President and the President administration towards addressing the issues of poverty and hardship that are facing Nigerians. On our part, the Armed Forces of Nigeria, we've been doing all that we need to do to ensure that we provide the enabling environment to support Mr. President and this government in the attainment of this objective of reducing poverty and hardship in this country. Particularly the Nigerian Navy, we have been working assiduously towards addressing the issue of insecurity in our maritime environment, and this has so far been paying yielding positive results, leading to the increase in our oil production, which is the mainstay of our economy. We also understand the enormous pains faced by Nigerians because we are also Nigerians. But we understand that this cannot be addressed through violence, and that the only way to do is for all hands to be on deck positively towards changing this narrative. But I want to use this forum to remind each and every one of us that the Armed Forces of Nigeria is constitutionally charged with the responsibility of defense of the nation from both internal and external aggression and protection of the sovereignty of this country. And this is for the overall good of the entire citizens of this country. In addition to that, the Armed Forces Act has given us several other responsibilities which enable us to provide aid to civil authority. Key among these responsibilities is the protection of democracy and the protection of the freedom of Nigerians and their freedom to be able to select who should lead them. And that's why I say that the armed forces is the power behind ensuring that democracy thrives in Nigeria, and we are committed to do that because that is our mandate and it's something we've been trained to do, and we have to just do it. As we have seen that the protest has taken a new dimension to the extent that it has become something that appears to be subversive in nature. Because when you are protesting for bad governance or you are protesting for poverty, and then we see people deliberately calling for change of government, unconstitutional change of government, people asking for foreign intervention in our country, it shows that the intention of some of these protesters are not exactly what Nigerians were made to believe. It is obvious to us that many of these protesters are sponsored by elements, subversive elements, who are bent on distorting the peace that we have enjoyed in the last 25 years of democratic governance. It is also obvious to us that these people who want to perpetrate this ideology have other intentions other than the intention which they have made the gullible Nigerians to believe. And for that reason, as part of our constitutional responsibility, which is protection of the sovereignty of this country and provision of aid to civil authority, we are ready and we stand firm and resolute to provide the needed assistance to the Nigerian police in order to ensure that law and order is restored in all parts of this country where these violent protests have started. We will not renege in our responsibility, and we are ready to do it with the last drop of our blood. That I can assure you. The Nigerian Navy particularly will not sit back to watch these subversive elements take over our Commonwealth. We will do all that is required within the ambits of the law to show them that they have no place in our society, because we have believed that we are protecting the majority of Nigerians, over 99.9% of Nigerians who believe in peace, who believe in the future of this country. These bad elements constitute less than insignificant part of our population, but unfortunately, they have the reach, they have the resources, and they are also backed by bad elements who want to see us go the way of Somalia and other countries. We, the armed forces of Nigeria, particularly the Nigerian Navy, say no to that, and we are ready to fight it to the end. On this note, I want to inform this audience that we have rejigged our operations and we have instituted other means to be able to track these subversive elements and bring them to book. We are therefore appealing on well-meaning Nigerians to join us in this vanguard for peace, to join us in reaching out to these hoodlums and let them know that the federal government of Nigeria is their friend, while those who are pushing them to go into subversion are the real enemies of the state, and by implication, the real enemies of all Nigerians. Thank you very much.
The Chief of Defense Staff, sir, fellow service chief, heads of other security agencies, gentlemen media practitioner. Long before 1st of August this year, troops of the Nigerian Army have been deployed in the public space, maintaining law and order in line with our constitutional provision as enshrined in Section 217 of the 1999 Constitution. The reason for this deployment of troops is the fact that we were challenged, and we are still challenged security-wise, as a nation. Come 1st of August this year, and for the past 5 days, there has been a different dimension to the security challenge in our country. We have witnessed wanton destruction of properties, loss of lives, and even stretching the insecurity in our nation to the point of treason and subversion. The troops of the Nigerian Army have addressed this situation on case-by-case basis. in conjunction with other security agencies. I want to, on behalf of the officers and soldiers of the Nigerian Army, state unequivocally that the Nigerian Army stand assured in defense of our democracy, of our peace, of our harmony, and we are not going to shift ground on that. Our return to democracy in 1999 as a nation cost us blood and treasure. So my appeal to youth is that what we have witnessed in the past 5 days is an investment, needless investment of blood, of treasure, calling for an unconstitutional change of government. The Nigerian Army will not sit by and watch the nation slide into anarchy. Accordingly, the troops of the Nigerian Army will continue to work in conjunction with other security agencies in the population space to maintain law and order. I want to appreciate the press for reports that we have received on the performance of our troops so far since the outbreak of this nationwide protest that's turned into riots. We have taken into account your reports. We have used them to streamline the performance of our troops, and we will even inculcate them into our doctrine. I want to thank the youths. I want to thank the generality of Nigerians. I want to thank the media that since the break of day today, since 0600 hours, the reports from across the nation is that we have returned back to a palpable state of peace and security. And I believe going forward, we will continue along that trajectory. So I seek for the understanding of the media, the youths, the generality of Nigerians to continue to support our troops as they work with like-minded Nigerians to ensure that peace, law and order reign in our country. Thank you very much.
I'm sure we're all aware that today's event is unprecedented. I don't think in the history of Nigeria we've had a situation where all the heads of security forces are here on ground to discuss and be able to talk to the press for Nigerians. It shows the respect we have for our dear country. It shows the love for God and country. It shows that we're committed in our task and that we love Nigeria. We don't want anything bad to happen to Nigeria, and that's very important for everyone to understand. None of us here is happy to hear any Nigerian is injured for whatever reason. It's our duty to protect Nigerians. The only people we're after are those ones that don't mean us well, the enemies of the state. And anyone who makes himself an enemy of the state then will be ready to face the law. We're going to remain focused, committed. We're going to respect human rights, the rights of everyone who is lawfully performing his task or his duty, but we will not relent in pursuing those that have continued to encourage unconstitutional to take over of government or subversion, or those ones that are into vandalism or destruction of lives and property. And we just want to make that very clear. We will remain very professional. We have talked to our men outside in the field that they must respect the rights of everyone. We encourage the youths to dialogue, to understand that destruction, mob action, does nobody any good. We know there are challenges in the country, and these challenges are not only here. Every country is facing one challenge or the other. So we are not isolated because of the new world order. So it is important that we speak with the same voice in support of our dear country, Nigeria. Whatever that is happening, the solution is a whole lot of society solution. And that's why we preach people-centrism in everything that we do. Now it's time for question and answer. Please, I will advise that you go straight to the point, no double-barrel questions. If they ask a question that has been treated, please, let's move on so that we can finish and go back to our normal duties. You can carry on.
So please introduce yourself, the media you represent, and direct your question to either the CDS, service chiefs, Inspector General of Police, or any of the head of state.
Okay, the question was about how do we intend to address the allegation of use of excessive force by the police and the military. I want to respond to that by saying that the police and the military, indeed no other security agency involved in the management of this protest has deployed excessive use of force. Instead, what we had was attack on security agents during the protest. From our record, there was no shooting incident by the police. The police or the military did not use any live ammunition in the management of this protest. Instead, we have had cases where our officers were injured critically and are still in critical condition in the hospital as we speak. So I would dismiss that as fake news. It is not true. It's a very wrong allegation. We didn't use excessive force at all. We didn't even deploy the whole of our strength in this protest, even when it turned violent. We have water cannons we didn't deploy. We have rubber bullets we didn't use. All that we have used in this protest, in the management of the protest, is tear gas smoke and nothing more. Then the second question on whether attention of security agents will have shifted from other focuses to the protest. I would say no. We were not overstretched. We had standby units that we didn't deploy in managing this protest. Even while the protest was going on, a number of criminals were arrested. Hoodlums who came out to commit armed robbery were arrested. The only thing we didn't have was kidnapping. But any other offense that was committed, we paid due attention to those criminal activities. Then the third question was on the report on the social media that one of our armored personnel carrier, APC, was hijacked by protesters in Kaduna. That also is not true. I saw the video going around, but the situation in Kaduna was that we didn't even deploy APC for the protest. The APC you saw in that video was deployed to the gate of the government house in Kaduna. Protesters went to the gate, and as the APC was driving out, those protesters climbed the APC. So many of them, they climbed the APC. And what the driver of the APC did was to make a U-turn and go back to the front of the government house gate. So it wasn't a case of hijack of APC. Yeah, I think that's all. Stadium was not, we didn't take over stadium. We provided security at the stadium. That was not a takeover of the stadium. We assured those who engaged us, who approached us, and told us about their intention to stage peaceful protest. We asked them to go to a particular location. And that if they go there, we will provide security. We assured them. We have said at several occasions that we recognize the rights of citizens to peaceful protest. And that for as long as the protesters remain peaceful, the police will be there with them. So we deployed adequately to the stadium to provide adequate protection for the protesters. So we didn't take over the stadium. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. On the issue of palliative, times in the past, Nigeria Customs Service has been involved in the management of palliatives when we were directed to do so. Earlier in this year, when we had the issue of the food inflation and hunger, we were directed to conduct direct allocation of palliatives to Nigerians. And we went to the drawing board. We knew that it was going to involve a lot of logistics. Given the number of people that we anticipated that was going to turn out for that kind of event, you will all remember that we recorded, despite the best of our efforts, we recorded some fatalities in a place like Lagos, and this necessitated us to change our strategies that we used and deployed using organized structures as our distribution channels in some other places. For this particular exercise, the National Grain Reserves that I talked about, a committee was set up to actually handle the distribution, and the channels they used were state governors. These were allocated and it went straight to the governors, and the feedback I got was that most of them used the structures of their states' emergency agencies to distribute these palliatives. There is also another ongoing one through the intervention which was directed by Mr. President to administer 50,000 metric tons of rice, which was brought into the country and is already being distributed using the same structure of these various state governors. Now, during one of the security meetings held with Mr. President, some of these issues were raised, and one of the decisions taken was that the President was going to further engage the state governors so that they will play their roles effectively in handling this crisis. The ball would be in the courts of the various state governors so that they could also prove that they are stakeholders in maintaining national peace and security and addressing the present crisis that we have at hand. If at any point in time we are directed again to proceed and do direct allocation of goods in our custody, of course, as a responsive agency of government, we will be willing to do so. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you very much, AIT, for your question. Let me clearly state that the DSS is a responsible domestic intelligence agency. And by that, the service is accountable and transparent and is rule governed. And in our security and intelligence governance procedures, we have no reasons whatsoever to arrest any person and not declare it. If you follow our tradition of operations, whether invitation or arrest or apprehension, we have always declared that to the public. Yesterday in the morning, when we were holding a press engagement, this question arose. And I said I had not had briefs on any of those arrests. But perhaps if we left the meeting and any information came forward to me, I will definitely reach out to the public. And I did. Afterwards, I issued a statement on our Twitter handle, and I said that the DSS can confirm that Adaramoye Michael, alias Michael Lenin, was not in the custody of the DSS. And I want to repeat it. He is not with us. And the fact is this, that anyone is a mufti does not suggest that the person is a DSS personnel. That anyone is in suit does not make the person a DSS or an intelligence officer. most times people misconstrue the outward dressing of any person as DSS. Many allegations had arisen as to the conduct of persons who were in Mufti during this period. They are not our staff, and I can categorically state that our operations are clearly ruled by standard operating procedures. Our officers are accountable in the issuance of arms, the issuance of order, and indeed the operation procedures are spelled out. So if we arrest any person, we will declare that to the public and will agree that the person has been arrested. So I want to re-emphasize again on behalf of the DSS that the person in question, Michael Adaramoye Lenin, is not in our custody and he was not arrested by us. Let me also use this opportunity again to say that on issues of rights, an exercise of rights, no right is absolute. The right that gives you freedom to do one also gives you freedom not to do that. And in the exercise of right, people must also exercise responsibility and restraint. There is freedom to do and there is freedom not to do. If there is a coffee, people should, responsible citizens should by every means respect the laws of the land. Good citizens are known by their respect for the laws that govern their country. We know about duties of a citizen, respect for the symbols of the state, respect to the national anthem and the pledge, payment of your taxes and all of that. Of course, government will provide you security and ensure your welfare is maintained. And I think part of providing security is what we are doing, and we will continue to do this. I challenge or I call on Nigerians, everyone, if you see something, say something. The DSS has offices across the 36 states and the FCT, and the 774 local governments. Please walk into our office, give us any information, and we will use it without diverging the source of the information. We protect our sources. There are many good citizens who come forward to give us information. The DSS and security agencies, we shouldn't adopt the practice, for the citizens. You shouldn't adopt the practice of we versus them. Security management is a collective endeavor. No one hand can tie a person, neither will one hand clap. It takes the unity of all of us to solve the problem of our nation. If you are a citizen and you are a good one for that matter, please give information when, if, and as appropriate. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sidious. While answering the question on the allegation of use of excessive force by the police and the military, I didn't address the case that was reported of a young man who was shot somewhere around Kubwa in Abuja. I saw the video and I ordered immediate investigation. I guess that is why the person who asked that question asked. I saw the trending video and I immediately ordered investigation into that. The eyewitness said that they saw a group of people, a team, dressed in black police uniform. And I said that would not be from us. Because throughout the protest, our dress order is the camo, which I'm wearing now. And not just the camo, it's the camo with the red band worn on the left arm. So if you see any other person that is dressed in the regular black and black police uniform, that cannot be police. That is not from the Nigerian police. I don't know where they came from. They may be armed robbers, they may be anything, but they are not police. That's what the findings of the investigation that I ordered revealed. I want to also use this opportunity to commend Nigerians who refused to take part in this protest and who indeed spoke against it and agree with us that the protest is ill-timed, out of sheer patriotism and belief in the genuine effort of government to put the country on the path of economic recovery and growth. I also want to thank those who peacefully took part in the protest and withdrew from it when the protest turned violent. I also recognize the patriotism of those who heeded the call of Mr. President to embrace dialogue and immediately withdrew from the protest. I thank all Nigerians for the support that we have received while managing this protest. We still have pockets of demonstration by a few people in few states in the northwest and the northeast. As at this morning, the situation is calm, but we are not taking it for granted. Our officers are still on ground to ensure that we maintain the peace. I thank all Nigerians, and I want to assure you that the Nigerian police is here to serve you and to protect you. Thank you.
So we'll now take another set of questions. Maybe before. Okay, go ahead.
Morning, sir. My name is Council. I write for the Guardian. Sir, what broke out after a day or two of protest, just to describe as insurrection? What measures are you taking to prevent further escalation of this insurrection? Second, are there indications of coordination of funding support from foreign entities? And if so, how are you countering it? Lastly, what contingency plans are in place in case the situation deteriorates, although we are seeing.
All right, sir. My name is Taka David. My question is, I write for leadership newspaper. My question is to the IGP. Sir, you said your men did not fire shots at people. On the day of the day one of the protest, some of us went around and we saw men deployed to control this crowd with assault rifles. I want to know if it is part of the standard operating procedure to deploy men with assault rifles on such occasions.
Thank you very much. Yes, my name is Friday Loco. I work with Arise News. Now, of course, we want to find out the fate of the people who were arrested, like the young man in Kano who was arrested for sewing Russian flag. Now, they not stipulate that anybody who is arrested should be produced in court within 24 hours, according to the habeas corpus act. What is the fate of the young people who have been arrested? When will they face trial in court? Thank you.
So, sir, may I request for response? No, I think that's before. Okay. Okay, the lady.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Onje Ojotenim. I write for Business Day newspapers. My question is for CNS. What are you doing, sir, to boost oil production in the nation? In specific terms, what are you doing to boost oil production in the nation? Because oil production is, a great part of our economy. I would like to know what you're doing, sir. Thank you very much.
Any more questions? Okay, thank you, sir.
So now, let's go to IGP again for most of the questions that you
Thank you, CDS. First question on how do we prevent escalation of the situation? We have deployed adequately and we are responding appropriately to the situations as they unfold. Where we need to use tear gas smoke, we deploy tear gas smoke. Where we need to provide protection, we provide protection. Where we need to make arrests, we make arrests. That's the way we are managing the protest. And we don't see it escalating. Although we are aware that the sponsors of this protest, some of them have clear motive to subvert the government of the day. We are not going to allow that. We will defend our democracy. Then the question on how are we countering funding of the protest? We are doing a lot that I won't be able to immediately expose to you, how we are countering funding. We have blocked some accounts and we are still monitoring them. Some of them are outside the country and we are still going to get them. You asked, what do we do in case the situation deteriorates? I've answered that. We respond to all situations as they unfold. If it deteriorates, we will deploy more. More resources will be deployed if it deteriorates. And I've said earlier on, where necessary, when it gets out of hand and the police is overwhelmed, we will hand over to the military. And I'm not seeing that happening in this case. Then there was this question on, issue of subversion. We are arresting those carrying flags of foreign nations and leaving the sponsors. Yes, we have to arrest those carrying flags to be able to get to the sponsors. We know that those flags that those children were carrying were handed over to them by some people. If we don't arrest them, how do we know who handed over those flags to them? We have also arrested tailors who sewn some of those flags. That is how we get to the sponsors. It's not just enough to have intelligence that some people are sponsoring subversive activities. What we need is to get the evidence against them. There are two elements of an offense. For those who studied law, there is the intention to commit offense, and it is called the mens rea. And there is the slightest manifestation of that intention. That is the real act. It's called the actus reus in law. So mere intention is not enough to grant conviction in court. So both must happen. Both the mens rea and the actus reus must come together. So we won't stop at the level of mens rea. We will wait also for the actus reus for us to gain conviction in the court. Then there was this question on why are some of our men deployed to manage the protest are armed with assault rifles when we say that we didn't fire a shot. Let me tell you that in responding to protests, we deploy in units most of the time, and our unit consists of 3 sections. We have the batting section, we have the smoke section, and we have the rifle section. In this protest, we didn't deploy the rifle section. There was no need for it. We deployed only the smoke section. So we have used only tear gas smoke to degrade this protest. We didn't have to deploy rifle section. And when you see men armed with rifles, they are there in case there is need to deploy them. But where there is no need to deploy them, they will not be deployed. And in this case, we didn't deploy them. The fate of arrested persons in the protest. And the person who asked that question wanted us to make reference to the requirement of the law that says that arrested persons should appear in court within 24 hours. I want to tell you that the trial of those suspects have since begun. In Kano, for example, because we have large number of arrests in Kano, the magistrates moved to the police headquarters. And that is where trial is ongoing right now. If you go to the police headquarters in Kano now, you will find out that arrested persons are already being tried. So we are not keeping them indefinitely. Okay, I think that's all questions.
Okay, maybe the DSS will be addressing the issue of subversion and maybe the question on funding. Ordinarily, traditionally, there are 5 angles to look at crimes or threats against national security. Terrorism, insurgency, sabotage, espionage, and subversion. And but beyond the 5, the incursive and disruptive nature of the internet has expanded the landscape of global threats today, that even conflicts that used to be inter are now intra, like what we are having now. We are not being faced with war by any country, but internal uprising and all of that. So you cannot rule out the intent of those who are sponsoring this kind of persons. After all, what is subversion? Willful intent, willful act designed to undermine an authority. And how do you do that? People begin to show unreasonable disdain for constituted authority. People begin to disrespect symbols of the state. People begin to call for change directly, for change of regime. And we have seen all the parameters are obvious. So nobody should be asking whether or not this is pre-existing subversion or whether it is with us. It's with us. And what should security organizations do? Before now, was there an intelligence? Yes. Now, is there an intelligence? Yes. Were actions taken? Democracy is not the same thing as dictatorship. In democracy, you follow procedures, you follow rules. You are talking about arresting somebody and also prosecuting the person. You are calling me to account about someone you presume we arrested. These are issues in democracy. You are not allowed as a security organization to take laws into your hands. And that is why we are even doing this. That is why we are accountable. That is why the military is also declaring their subordination to constituted authority, because that is the pillar of democracy. So now people have started manifesting attitudes that are inimical to security and to the welfare and orderliness of the society. So we won't cross our hands. We have arrested sponsors of those who did the flag. It's not just that children are throwing flags or flying flags. No, there is more to that. There are some aspects of our operations that we may not sit before the camera and begin to reel out, either because of their sensitivity, either because we are not supposed to say them now, or because there are ongoing investigations, and we may not say things that will jeopardize those investigations. But I can assure you, be patient with us. You will hear from us sooner than later. We are not sleeping over the issues. We will take it to the end, and you'll be surprised if at all we will declare the information to the public. You'll be surprised at what we know and what we have seen. So the fundings are there. But let me even shock you that people are leaving the banking space to virtual currency. And people are using crowdfunding to raise money. People are using things other than the currency that you know of, channels of transaction, to do bitcoins, to do virtual currency, to do all manner of things to raise financing. You know, but we are tracking all of that. The NFIU is doing so much. Our Directorate for Proceeds of Crimes and Recovery Management is doing so much. Our Economic Intelligence Directorate, all our operations, and in fact all our structures are geared towards extracting intelligence that will disrupt the networks of either the espionage agents or the subversive agents. But definitely, the small children you are seeing are the pawns on the chessboard. The real persons behind them, we are on track of such persons. Some of them are already in our net, but we may not discuss or disclose aspects of the operations now, but definitely we will. Thank you.
What we are doing to bring those subversive elements to book has been adequately addressed by the IGP and the DSS. So I won't respond to that again. But on the other question that talks about what the Nigerian Navy is doing to boost oil production, I'd like to inform you that as part of our role in terms of provision of aid to civil authority and provision of aid to civil power is our enforcement duties, enforcing maritime laws within Nigeria's maritime domain. And we see this role as key, particularly in this period where oil production is critical to our economic survival. In fact, we see protection of Nigeria's national oil assets as a very critical area that we must focus our attention. And therefore, we've redefined our operation and our strategies to encompass what we call a trinity of action concept. This involves surveillance, response capability, and then law enforcement. These three trident aspects put together takes us to where we are, which is the results that we are beginning to see and we are also improving upon. For instance, we've increased our surveillance capability by using our maritime domain awareness capability, which is technology-based systems that enables us to have 24-hour visibility of what is happening outward at sea. Although these systems have some limitations, particularly the fact that we cannot effectively cover the backwaters. And when I say the backwaters, I mean the creeks and the riverine areas that are covered by trees and the other things. We are making effort to use other forms of surveillance. And that's why we have rejigged that maritime domain awareness capability to incorporate the use of drones, the use of our air assets, our helicopters, to conduct surveillance, and above all, the use of the people, because human intelligence is key. Is even the most important, much more important than technology. And in this respect, we are particularly working with the communities, working with other stakeholders, working with the oil industry, working with all the operators in the field to give us adequate information when these breaches occur. Of course, you know that we are also not acting alone, because the maritime domain is an area where no particular agency can do it alone. In fact, the government agency cannot even do it alone. So we are working together with the Army, the Air Force, the police, the customs, and all other security agencies in this regard, particularly even the civil defense. And we are all geared towards making sure that we check these criminals who are causing these problems in the creeks, particularly in terms of vandalization of oil pipelines. And I can tell you that if you have local information from within the Niger Delta, for instance in Port Harcourt, you know that the situation has changed tremendously. The reports we get from the field show that it is very, very difficult now for some of the people who use these products to get them in the market. At one time, most of the products, AGO in the market, were already illegally refined petroleum products. But now, it's very difficult to get that. And I see some people shaking their head because it's true. If you go to the fields, you go to Port Harcourt to Warri and look for, maybe you want a cheap AGO, you find it difficult to get. These are the results of some of these our operations, working together under the auspices of the Joint Task Force Operation Delta Safe, and also our own operations, which we call the Operation Delta Sanity. We have rejigged that operation, particularly in the area of maritime domain awareness. Then, in the area of response capability, over the years, which is part of our strategic plan, we have put fleet renewal as key to our ability to be able to checkmate these critical areas. And our acquisitions now are not geared mostly towards big ships like frigates, but to offshore patrol vessels and fast attack crafts and boats, which will enable us to be able to penetrate these areas and turn the tide against these criminals. Every day, our ships are at sea, our boats are at sea. As I'm speaking to you now, over 12 Nigerian Navy ships are at sea, patrolling the maritime domain. And we are making having tremendous results in terms of arrests. Within the last 6 months, over 60 vessels have been arrested. Some of them are in various stages of investigation and prosecution. Within the last period, there is no day that we do not deactivate several illegal refining sites. But the bad thing about this is that these criminals, the facilities they use in establishing these illegal refining sites are so cheap that once we destroy them, tomorrow they come back to set it up again. But our men are in the field. In the course of our duties, so many of our men have paid the supreme sacrifice. Either they get consumed by fire during the process of the deactivation of these illegal refineries, but it's a task which we see as something we cannot just look the other way. So we are determined that we must do all that we have to do to achieve what the result. And we are doing that. Then in terms of law enforcement, of course, those of us who are in the field, you know that in 2017 we had this harmonized terms and conditions, harmonized standard operating procedure for arrest, detention, and prosecution of offences within the maritime environment. And that's why I say that the issue of collaboration, because the Nigerian Navy and the armed forces as a whole cannot prosecute these offenders. And that's why we have a common framework whereby when we make this arrest, whether it's the Navy that makes the arrest, or the Army, or the police, or the civil defense, then we make our preliminary investigations and forward to the appropriate prosecution agencies to ensure that at the end of the day, faces are brought into these offences and they are convicted to serve as deterrents to others. We are achieving results, and like I said, it is far much better than where we started, and we hope to redouble our efforts to make it better. And I promise you that with this collaboration among all of us, our trident strategy of law enforcement, response capability, and surveillance, improving our surveillance, definitely will get better results. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we're almost through. Let me give civil defense any last comment, 2 minutes. And then the
actually in the creek, and we have made several very unprecedented arrests on the number of vandals, bonkaras, whether it is from tanker, from badges, from vehicle and the rest. And most of the cases actually are sub judice, but because we have the powers of prosecution, we have secured a lot of convictions, on the vandalization issue. And I think that with the present charge that the president gave the security agencies, has been championed by CDS, on the issue of increasing the capacity of oil production. I think all hands are on deck to make sure that we improve the capacity. And so by going forward, there is a very robust operational framework that has been designed by CDS, and all of us have hidden. And I think definitely we are going to see better results going forward. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Just to buttress what the IGP said and the DSS said regarding the sponsors, the question the gentleman asked, I just want to let you know that some of these sponsors, some of these people who are actually in diaspora, we have a number of them who are actually instigating this mayhem that we're seeing right now. What we've done is we've had them on our watch list, and they've been watch listed. We have them on our radars, and we're making sure that any attempt they make to come into the country will notify the necessary authority. And we're working closely, of course, with the NIA and the DSS, of course, and the NSA's office, so that all those we have in diaspora that are actually trying to subvert the authority of this nation, they are in our radars. We have them watch listed, and any attempt they make to come into the country will be notified, and we'll also know what to do. We'll notify the necessary authority. So in essence, we're also making sure that everyone who is not supposed to come into the country, any person who is of interest in terms of these activities going on right now, we will make sure that as they come in, they are handed over to the necessary authority. Thank you.